tight, everyone, because this is a combination of knowing everything from my previous Idig videos and building on that to be able to dig a large area to a slope, and this in this instance is a single grade. Essentially, I've got the garden you can see in front of me. It goes from this area here on the right all the way down. We have about 150 mil fall across the garden to that fence line over there, and it's pretty much level going the other way, so there's not really I mean, it literally is within 20 or 30 mil, so there's no point in me trying to get a grade for that. It would be a 0.0%. This is my drawing. I've got some heights which I've stuck a few pegs in the ground. There's one in front of us here with a blue spray around it. These I just stuck in the ground to give myself an idea of what my grade was, because I haven't got a grade here. No one's told me what the grade is. This is the way you'd actually be looking at it as it stands. So I knew there was 150 mil between these points, but you know, what percentage is that? So the easiest way for me to calculate it is to get the calculator out, basically Google a slope calculator, and you can literally set these points. I like to have a couple of pegs about the garden. I think it's good for the guys, they can see where finished level is. You know, it's all great me having it on the computer, but the boys who are, you know, doing the final dress in the topsoil or whatever, I think a few pegs about is always a good thing to have, so that's why we do that. It's not necessary for what we're doing here, but that's the reason I do it. So my slope calculator, I know what my distance is between these 2 points, and I know what the fall is, so from that it can tell me what the grade is in a percentage, which I can then use to input into my laser. Now I've got a nice smart laser here where I can input it into my rod eye sensor and it'll change it over at the laser, so we don't even have to get out the cab, which in January, as it is at the moment, is a very, very nice thing to have. We don't like getting out of the cab when it's cold. So on my laser, you can see I'm at a grade of 0.75%, which is what this works out to in this particular instance, and that's going this way, so I know which way it's going. I've checked it. We're falling this way. So with my laser set up, essentially I can just leave that spinning and I don't have to touch that anymore, and I don't have to do anything with that. It's quite convenient. It sits up there in my phone holder when I'm doing this sort of work, and then no one can play with the laser either, so they can't change the grade or mess around with it. All has to be done through this. And then we get the Idig element of this. Now this particular garden, I need to do a little bit of cutting on this side of it, because I'm essentially at grade where I'm currently sat in front of me, you know, down here where the bucket's touching, and I need to be filling that end by about 100 to 120 mil on average across the end. So I don't want to just take a load of good soil and throw 120 mil of it down that end and have nothing here. I'm going to skim off some of this pretty decent existing soil, fill a little bit of that end, and then try and get a consistent blend of about 60 to 70 mil of nice soil across the top for seeding or turfing, whatever this particular contractor is going to do with this garden. My job is just to get it level, or at least a grade. So in this first instance, I'm literally taking 50 mil off this just to give myself that bit of soil, and I don't really need Idig to have my grade to tell me to do that. But to get a grade, you do everything you do in my single slope video that I did before with no grade, but of course you're also then trying to integrate it to the laser. Now the laser itself, if you imagine, is setting at an angle like this, so it's also on a slope, and the Idig system doesn't necessarily know that, but what you're doing is you're referencing off the laser, and the laser is at a slope. So as you go down the slope, so as I would track left here and go towards this left-hand fence, I am going with the laser, which of course is falling. I would then ping my reference myself again, and the Idig would go, oh, okay, well I know my height difference from, in this instance, that peg to the laser line, therefore I know what you need to dig. But of course the reason you have to set the Idig into a slope is because otherwise it would tell you to dig a level area, and of course you don't want to dig a level area, you want to dig a slope. In this instance the slope's like that. When I spin around it will be either forward or with me. So what you do, it's relatively complicated. I'll bring you to the screen so I can show you. So just a little test of accuracy here. Just finished doing the cut over that side of the garden. Before I show you how to set the slope up, you know, it's something that I always question was how accurate this Idig is. So, you know, we're doing a slope, it's complicated. There's a lot going on here you've got to think about. You can see there's my cut over there where I just took that last bit of footage with you. And here, just in front of me, is the other peg that I put in earlier. Here's one I did earlier, typical Blue Peter. That in theory should be the other end of my fall, if you know what I mean. So that's the other finished level that I need to get to. This is obviously where I'm putting the fill, which I'm about to just spread about quick, track in before we put the good topsoil on. However, I've now moved, this is still set up for me digging over there, but in theory, because the laser is set at the full, this should read 0 if I catch the laser again. So, simple little laser catch. Now I'm on the piss here, you might be able to tell that. This is a much lower side down here. So the digger's got to work out the fact that I'm on the piss. I've completely changed position, we're working at an angle. And in theory, I mean, I haven't tested this, but let's see where we're at on this peg. I mean, 1 centimetre. That's good enough for landscaping, boys. Fucking good enough. So literally you just followed me there, I've tracked over, that's the kind of accuracy we're at. The digger's on the piss, this is all fucking sloping, and I've just set it to 1 centimetre. And the thing is that I haven't set the Idig yet to my grade. So if I did that, I've probably, that's where my 10 mil is, you know, that's where my 1 centimetre is. At the moment I'm literally just horsing it out here, and I'll show you in a minute what you have to do to set the grade, and I can't be bothered to go through that just to knock this about roughly for a subgrade. So yeah, I'll explain how I do it accurately when we start putting the topsoil in. Okay, so I've been doing a bit of work this morning over here. This is my low end, this end, and this is my higher end. Laser set up over there at the 0.75% full, as I showed you earlier. And Idig is currently asking for information. It's in level mode, it's asking for levels, etc. It doesn't know. What we're going to do, and this is how I set the grade up. I've got my laser, as I say, laser's falling like this, the ground wants to fall like this, so I need to, if I was to tell Idig, well, straight off the laser now, it would dig a level area off of that, but of course I want to grade a fall as well as I go, so every time I move the machine I then want to, you know, pull that same fall. So we have to tell Idig that we've got a grade going on, and it works in 2 ways. So because it can work in dual grade. So in this instance I'm flat in this direction, I've got a fall in this direction. I need to tell Idig that. So go into my slope function. Now I got single or dual here, which you'll be able to see on the camera. I want single, which hasn't come up, single. Right, then ask me for what it calls the length of the slope, and you can set this in degrees, percentage, whatever, and then obviously which way it is towards the machine, whether it's towards or away from the machine, however you want to word that. So I know I've got 0.75%, and it's a positive because it's coming up towards the machine. So 0.75, job done. Now it wants to know which direction that is. Is it this way? Well, it's not this way because I'm currently looking down the slope. It's in this direction. So I get myself lined up with the slope because it's coming. That's the low end now. As we look out the window, stick the bucket on the ground so the cab's nice and stable, and then I press this button up here, which lines me up automatically. You can do an offset and dial in all these things. That's the one you want. you just want it to set, and it'll ask you to just keep the screen, it'll keep the machine straight, and there you go. It then gives you a countdown here of 20 minutes. That's how long you've got to work in this direction before it basically needs just, every 20 minutes it wants to check that it's still on the right course, because it can accrue very, very small discrepancies, because there isn't a measuring wheel on the slew ring here. This is doing this through potentiometers and whatever they are, momentometers and whatever, in the 2D sensor, which is all very, very clever and works very similar to how your phone knows that it's pointing in one direction or the other. You can see up here, the blue line is the way I'm facing, and it knows I've got basically what it's calling a 0.8, but it's 0.75 of a fall in this direction. And obviously my timer's counting down. Now, sometimes it doesn't matter what direction your tracks are facing either, by the way. You can slew your tracks round. It knows where the cab is facing, the turret as such. So, you know, it doesn't matter which way your tracks are in relation, any of that. But it will, every 20 minutes, want you to just do your alignment just to make sure. And it'll stop you being able to scan the laser. It'll stop you, it'll flash up on here with all the lights will flash. So it'll basically tell you, look, you know, hang on a minute, can I just do a correction? And that just basically keeps it on track. I found I tend to do it every sort of 10 to 15 minutes. You know, you're slewing around all the time, putting gear behind you as you're grading. You end up just slightly off, basically, maybe, you know, 10, 15 degrees off of straight occasionally, and if you leave it the full 20 minutes. So I tend to just do it every 10 or so minutes. It sounds like a ball ache, actually not a problem, it's really easy. You saw how quick it was to do that. Anyway, back to it. Idig is now wanting to know what level this slope is at. It knows we want a slope, it knows the direction we want the slope in, but it doesn't know what height we want that slope at. So we need to tell it what level we're at. Now, I could do that if I was near a house or datum and I was just grading a patio. I could tell it, well, this is 0, as I would when it's a level area, or I can do it off of the laser. And of course, we want to use the laser, don't we? Because that's the most accurate way. So what I could do is, I know that I've got a good spot here, so I would use a peg. I used the peg this morning, my datum peg, which I showed you earlier in my video. We're then going to press your laser, and it says watch out to use the slope with the same, you know, the same slope set at, it says 0.8, but it actually is set at 0.75. That basically means to make sure that your laser's set to the same angle. If you did it with a flat laser, all you do is dig multiple slopes that are like this, so no good. You want a constant slope in one direction, so that's why we use the laser, set at the same slope. So we click yes, we're aware of that. Now it's asking us where our datum is, which in this instance the bucket is on the ground. I can then say that that is my 0, and now it's asking for a laser scan, which is exactly the same process as the digging a level area with the laser jobby. Obviously, apologies, I am doing this one-handed, so I'm trying to film at the same time. So move the machine until your dipper sensor over there on my machine finds the laser. There we go. It's just scanning the laser now. There you go, it's happy. I've got 151 centimeters between my laser line and my datum, and I can now dig a perfect slope. And every time I move, all I've got to do is scan my laser again, as we did with the level area, and you will pull through a consistent slope across the board. Now, again, I always question this. I thought, well, how accurate can it be? You know, you've got the direction, and that obviously can be slightly out. You've got with the digger slightly out, and I tell you what, I had a peg over by this tree earlier when I was doing this. That tree there, there's another peg over there, which you now can't see, but it is there. That was my kind of middle line when we were initially setting levels out. Obviously I've got a peg in that corner and a peg over behind the ditch witch. And as I was pulling through, I thought, let's see how good it is to that peg, and absolutely spot on. If I'd have had the camera on me, I'd have filmed it, because you wouldn't have believed it. So it does work. Okay, what's that, a distance of 8-10 meters maybe? But she pulls a slope, and you could do this over 500 meters. You could do it for drainage. I have done it for drainage. Same thing. So you will question it, because you naturally will, but trust me, she works. I could even, when I was doing this cut over here, you know, I was just using the offset feature and saying, well, I want to dig 50mm more than that, and you know, you're not having to go back to your datum every time. You can just knock it down 50mm or up, or whichever you're doing to suit. So you can see as I turn this screen here, you know, it knows when I'm turning, and it knows when I'm facing the direction I should be in. We're 14 minutes out since I played with that, and that's the direction I was facing, right? And I mean, it's very, very slightly off the blue line, but I mean, we haven't really been spinning, so the more, you know, you do slewing and stuff, the more it kind of just slowly loses exactly where it is. But as I say, it takes seconds to just redo that. And of course, you've got to, every time you move, you've got to scan your laser, as I said, but works an absolute treat. Quite complicated to set up. If you set your laser height before setting your slope, it basically wants to forget the laser scan and set the slope first. So you just have to remember, do your slope first, get your angle of which direction your slope's in, then set your height. That's basically the way to do that, and then you're off. Another great function of Idig. Hopefully that explains a bit. It took me a while to remember occasionally, because I don't do this all the time. Hopefully that'll be a useful little video for you guys. Catch you again in another video. Cheers.